The classroom of Ashwood Academy hummed with the restless energy of students waiting to see their new history professor. The air carried that strange mix of curiosity and unease, as if everyone sensed something sharp was about to pierce their ordinary day. The door creaked open and in walked Professor Alden Graves. His tall, stiff frame moved with calculated slowness, like a man convinced the room already belonged to him. He set his briefcase on the desk without a word. His silence wasn't quiet, it was oppressive, like a storm cloud drawing closer. Students shifted in their seats, waiting for him to speak. Finally, his eyes, cold and sharp as a knife, scanned the room like a hunter searching for prey. His gaze landed at the back. "You," he barked, his voice slicing through the silence. "Is it always acceptable to come to class with hair like that?" Confused students turned their heads. Graves' chin pointed toward Naomi Ellis, a quiet girl in the back row with long, neatly braided hair. Naomi froze, her heart pounding. Graves smirked. "It looks like you're on your way to a circus, not a classroom." The words echoed like a slap. Nervous giggles escaped a few lips, cowardly, uneasy laughter. Naomi shrank lower in her chair, her cheeks burning with humiliation. "Stand up," Graves snapped. "Read for us. Let's see if you're capable of even that." Her fingers trembled as she lifted her book, her voice wavering at first, but quickly finding a steady rhythm. Her words were clear, her pronunciation precise. She was halfway through a paragraph when his hand shot up. "Stop. That's enough." He leaned back, feigning exhaustion. "That accent is unbearable. You're torturing us all." Silence spread across the room, heavy and suffocating. Naomi's throat tightened. "Practice at home next time before you bring that noise here." Graves smirked, feeding on the discomfort around him. The lesson continued, but his cruelty never relented. Again and again he called on Naomi, not to test her knowledge but to sharpen his tongue. "Did you understand that?" he asked loudly, making sure everyone heard. "I sometimes forget some people don't have the same capacity as others." Each barb stung worse than the last. Naomi's classmates looked at their desks, unwilling to meet her eyes, unwilling to challenge the professor. Finally, Graves declared, "Today we will discuss civilization and progress." His eyes immediately sought her out again. "Tell me, Naomi, do you even know what progress means?" Naomi lifted her chin, her voice calm but firm. "Progress is when a society advances, improving in technology, education, and social harmony." A murmur of approval stirred among her classmates, but Graves sneered. "Memorized words. Hello. I doubt you people could ever understand progress sincerely." His laughter rang out, cruel and unrestrained. "Look at her blush. Do you think anyone with that hair, that skin, could ever work in a serious office? Of course not." The bell rang, mercifully releasing the tension. Students rushed out, whispering and avoiding Naomi's eyes. But Graves' voice halted her in place. "Everyone may leave except you." Naomi's stomach sank. She stood frozen as the room emptied. Graves scribbled furiously on a slip of paper and shoved it across the desk. 20 handwritten pages. "No mistakes. Bring it tomorrow. Or don't come back." That night, Naomi sat hunched over her desk, tears slipping silently down her cheeks as her pen scratched across the page. She wrote until her hand cramped and her vision blurred, until exhaustion weighed on her like chains. But she never stopped. By dawn, her notebook was filled with her desperate determination. The next morning she carried it to class with trembling hands. Graves seized the notebook the moment she entered. He flipped through the pages carelessly, then flung it to the floor. "Trash," he spat. The class erupted in whispers. Naomi's chest burned as she bent to retrieve it. "You're stealing the place of someone who deserves it," Graves barked. He kicked the notebook aside. "Pick it up. Stand in the corner. Let everyone see what happens when you pretend to belong." Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. She stood, clutching her notebook like a shield, her face aflame with humiliation. Her classmates whispered, some laughing nervously, others too afraid to speak. Graves puffed up with self-satisfaction. "This is your lesson. Discipline. Standards. Some of you would do well to remember it." And then, the door opened. A new figure entered, and the atmosphere shifted instantly. Headmaster Elias Ward stood in the doorway, his presence so commanding that silence swallowed the room whole. His gaze swept over the students, then locked onto the scene. Naomi trembling in the corner, Graves swelling with pride. "What is happening here?" Ward's voice was low, but it carried a weight that silenced even the whispers. Graves straightened. "Discipline, Headmaster. This student is failing to meet standards." Frankly, students like her don't belong in Ashwood Academy. Expulsion would be appropriate. The headmaster stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. His silence was heavier than shouting. Naomi's heart raced as she clutched her notebook, terrified of what would come next. Graves mistook the pause for support. He pressed on, arrogance dripping from every word. It's not discomfort, sir. It's fact. She doesn't measure up. Her expression is deficient, her presence a distraction. Everyone knows someone like her will never go far. Better to cut the problem now before wasting more time. The room froze. Students looked at one another with wide eyes. Ward's jaw tightened, his stare cold as steel. His gaze shifted from Naomi's tear-stained face to Graves' sneering one. And then, with a voice that rumbled like thunder before a storm, he spoke. "Professor Graves, that student you have just humiliated is my daughter." Gasps rippled through the classroom. Graves' face drained of color. Ward advanced, his shadow stretching across the desk like a dark tide. "Now explain to me," he said, his calmness more terrifying than rage. "By what authority you dare to humiliate her in front of this class?" Graves stammered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Headmaster, surely you know I was joking. Just a bit of tough teaching. Students respond better that way." "There was no joke," Ward snapped, his voice cutting like a blade. "Humiliation is never teaching. And Naomi is none of what you claim. On the contrary, she has always been an excellent student." Graves shrank back, words deserting him. "Enough," Ward thundered, his voice shaking the walls. "Gather your things. Leave this institution immediately." "Headmaster, please." "No please. No excuses. And before you go, a formal reprimand will be filed. Let it remind you that children are not prey for your arrogance, and that cruelty leaves scars you cannot erase." The room was silent but for the frantic rustling of papers as Graves stuffed his belongings into his briefcase, his face red with humiliation. Ward turned to the students, his gaze blazing. "And all of you, remember what you saw today. Silence and laughter at injustice are also forms of injustice." From that day forward, the reprimand followed Alden Graves wherever he went. Schools turned him away. Parents whispered about him. His name became synonymous with disgrace. But Naomi rose from the ashes of that humiliation stronger than ever. What once had broken her became her proof of endurance. Her classmates too changed. Some sought her out with apologies, others showed newfound respect. The lesson they had witnessed lingered in their minds like a scar and a warning. At home, Headmaster Ward never spoke of that day again. But his quiet pride and gentle encouragement said everything. He made sure his daughter never doubted her worth again. And Graves, haunted, humiliated, and stripped of his arrogance, lived with the curse of knowing that his cruelty had destroyed him. Naomi, however, walked forward with her head high, her dignity intact. She had learned a truth that would never leave her. Dignity, once defended, always rises again.